Hey guys, in this video we're making a beautiful wire beaded bracelet. We've used one bigger bead with a smaller bead on each side, and each section is brought together with a metal spacer bead to hold the wires together. We've made a simple hook and loop clasp for our bracelet, so just a really simple, beautiful design. You can use whatever beads you like in between each section, so I'm using two 3mm beads and one 8mm bead. So it is better to have a bigger one in the centre with smaller ones on each side. And then I'm holding all my wires together with a 6mm silver bead, and it has quite a big hole. So this bead here that brings all the wires together does need to fit 3 layers of wire together. So it's a good idea to check and just make sure that that bead hole can fit 3 layers of wire easily. Now onto our wire. So for our design today we're using 20 gauge dead soft silver wire, and we need one 30cm length and one 70cm length. Now starting with that shorter 30cm length, we're going to place our loop on the end. So leaving a little tail straight at the end and grabbing with our round nose pliers, gently bend that wire around to form a loop on the end. This will be the loop part of our hook and loop clasp, so you don't want your loop too small. Now grabbing that loop and bringing that little tail around the other wire, nice and tight and tidy, so that we've got a nice secure loop on the end. Cutting that little tail off and crimping it in tight so there's no sharp edges. So you should have a nice tidy little loop on the end of your shorter wire. Now grabbing our longer piece of wire, we place the ends together and bend it gently in the middle there. So we can bring it down a little bit straighter, and we're gently going to work that down so it's a nice small loop in the middle there. Bringing those wires across each other to pull that loop small. Now we place the loop on the shorter end of wire up through this loop and pull that tight to secure both wires together. You can wrap it around one more time if you like the look of that as well. Now we want one wire on each side, so one coming across to the left and one to the right, and then we've got our centre wire as well. So this middle wire here is where we're going to place the beads for our design, and then the longer ones on the top and bottom are the wires that sort of wrap around. So my design is the small bead, then the bigger bead, then the smaller bead. So I'll just place those 3 beads on this middle wire, sliding them up to the end. Next on, we're going to place that silver bead with a bigger hole and place that on all 3 wires. So gently working with your wires so that you don't make any harsh bends in the wire, and you'll have these 2 slightly longer wires because they need to come around the beads. So we'll place the bead onto those longer ones first and slide it down to catch that shorter wire as well. Gently working that bead down until it's in the right position. So it's up to you how far apart you space these beads or how tight you want the design to be. But at this point, you're just gently working with your wires so they stay nice and straight, and so that you can get your beads in the right positions. So you might need to gently bend those wires around the beads. You can tweak everything into position a little bit later as well. Now we just repeat this same process. So we're going to place our design beads again onto that middle shorter wire. So I'm just doing my same design the whole way along. So small bead, large bead, and then another small bead. And then our silver bead with a bigger hole on all 3 wires. Gently working that bead down until it sits in the right position. You want to have the beads on the wire sit in the center with these other wires coming on the top and the bottom to sort of frame the beads there. So just working your wires into that position and then continuing the same technique until your bracelet is your desired length. I like my bracelets to be about 20 centimeters total, and my bracelet here is about 19 centimeters long. And then with the clasp, that will make it about 1 centimeter longer. So you can juggle the beads along a little bit if you want it slightly bigger or smaller. So I don't put a silver bead on this end just so the bracelet matches the other end, and we're going to place a little hook on this center wire. So measuring from the point where our little silver bead would be, we measure along 2 centimeters and then make a bend in the wire. Bending the wire back on itself to start to form a point for our hook. Gently bringing those wires together. Now we want this hook to be about 2 centimeters long. So we can measure back 2 centimeters and cut this extra tail off. Now we can gently wrap our side wires around the base of our hook. So just holding it in place there nice and securely and wrapping around nice and tight a couple of times, making sure we're wrapping around both of those wires on the hook. Cutting that tail off and crimping it down tight. Now bending this top wire around as well to frame those beads, bringing it around the base of this hook, nice and tidy. Just checking what side you want the inside of your bracelet to be and cutting that tail off, crimping it in tight so there's no sharp edges. Now you can take some time to check over your whole bracelet. Check that your loop is sitting nice and flat. Make sure those beads and the wires are sitting in the places that you want them and everything's sitting nice and even. Once you're happy with the design, then we gently start bending the wire around to form a bracelet shape. So bringing that hook and loop clasp close together. Now to form our hook, we want to grab it about halfway along the point here and just rotate it inwards. So it forms a hook shape. It does take a little bit of tweaking and just slowly working with it to get it into the right shape. And it should slip easily on and off the loop. So there's your beautiful beaded wire bracelet.